Join us tonight as we delve into the mysterious case of Jessica Martinez, a 4-year-old girl whose tragic disappearance and murder have haunted the Bakersfield community for over 3 decades. Despite years of investigation and tireless efforts by law enforcement, Jessica's killer or killers remain at large, leaving her family and loved ones yearning for answers and closure. We'll explore the events leading up to Jessica's disappearance, the subsequent investigation, and the ongoing quest for justice. As we embark on this journey, we invite you to join us in our pursuit of justice for Jessica Martinez, a beloved daughter whose memory lives on in the hearts of all who seek to bring her killer to justice. Welcome to Fireside Unsolved, Episode 73, The Unsolved Murder of Jessica Martinez. On May 10, 1999, Jessica was playing outside at the Timber Cove Apartments located at 5000 Bell Terrace in Bakersfield, California. Her stepfather was home while her mother, Nellie Mesa, was at work. Jessica was playing with her brother about 40 feet away from their apartment. Their stepfather watched over them from a patio window. At some point, he took his eyes off the children, and in that time, Jessica was gone. It is estimated that Jessica was abducted between 8:15 and 8:30 p.m. Upon realizing that Jessica was missing, frantic calls to the authorities initiated a swift response, launching an intensive search effort to locate the vanished girl. However, as the hours turned into days without any sign of Jessica, the sense of urgency only intensified. After 5 agonizing days on May 15, 1999, law enforcement officials formalized their efforts by establishing an official task force dedicated solely to the search for Jessica Martinez. With resources pooled and expertise combined, the task force embarked on a relentless pursuit to unravel the mystery surrounding Jessica's disappearance. As the investigation continued to unfold, the national spotlight turned towards Jessica's case. On May 20, 1999, America's Most Wanted aired a segment dedicated to Jessica's disappearance, reaching millions of viewers across the country. The broadcast sparked a wave of public interest and generated a flurry of tips and leads from concerned citizens eager to assist in the search for Jessica. In the aftermath of the broadcast, police fielded a staggering 58 calls from individuals offering information and potential sightings of Jessica. However, despite the influx of tips, none of them yielded the breakthrough authorities desperately sought. The search for Jessica continued, fueled by a collective determination to bring her home safely and hold those responsible for her disappearance accountable for their actions. The harrowing saga of Jessica's disappearance reached a devastating conclusion on May 21st, a gut-wrenching 11 days after she vanished from her home. Her lifeless body was discovered partially buried in a desolate cotton field, a grim discovery made by a farm worker operating a tractor. Located 10 miles south of Bakersfield on Bear Mountain Boulevard near Highway 99, the remote location served as a haunting reminder of the brutality inflicted upon the innocent girl. The grim findings from the coroner revealed that Jessica had been strangled before her body was callously discarded in the cotton field. The horrific nature of her murder sent shockwaves through the community, amplifying the sense of grief and outrage that had already gripped the hearts of all who had followed her story. Amidst the grim news of her body being located, authorities faced the daunting task of piecing together the events leading up to Jessica's death. Compounding the tragedy was the realization that Jessica had been deceased for several days prior to the discovery of her body. This revelation left a gaping void in the timeline of her disappearance, leaving investigators to grapple with the unsettling uncertainty surrounding her final days. Police were also unable to definitively determine whether Jessica had been subjected to assault, adding yet another layer of turmoil and uncertainty to the already heartbreaking narrative. Law enforcement officials cast a wide net, interviewing hundreds of individuals throughout the course of the murder investigation. Among those questioned were registered offenders residing in and around the Timber Cove Apartments where Jessica was last seen alive. One such resident was Christopher Lightsey, whose criminal record painted a troubling picture. Christopher Lightsey's past included convictions for heinous crimes, including a despicable act including 2 young girls. Moreover, he stood trial for allegations of inappropriate conduct involving children while working as a teacher at a grade school. Additionally, Lightsey's rap sheet boasted several drug offenses, further underscoring the seriousness of his criminal history. Given the grave nature of Lightsey's past transgressions, law enforcement authorities meticulously scrutinized his potential involvement in Jessica's murder. He was subjected to intense questioning by police, with every effort made to uncover any shred of evidence linking him to the heinous crime. Despite the suspicions surrounding Lightsey's troubled past, investigators ultimately found no concrete evidence connecting him to Jessica's murder. Despite the lack of a direct link, the shadow of suspicion lingered, serving as a sobering reminder of the complexities and challenges inherent in unraveling the truth behind such a vicious crime. However, the unsettling saga surrounding Christopher Lightsey took a chilling turn in 1993 when he was arrested and subsequently sentenced to death row for a shocking act of violence. Lightsey brutally murdered his neighbor, William Compton, an elderly cancer patient residing in the same apartment complex. The brutality of the crime was unfathomable, with Lightsey inflicting a staggering 43 stab wounds upon his defenseless victim. In light of this gruesome revelation, detectives revisited Lightsey as a potential suspect in Jessica's murder, recognizing the disturbing pattern of violence that marked his past. They paid him a visit, hoping to glean any information that could shed light on Jessica's tragic fate. However, their efforts were met with resistance as Lightsey, upon being questioned about the case, abruptly stormed out of the interview room, leaving behind a cloud of suspicion and unanswered questions. Amidst mounting scrutiny, forensic experts conducted a thorough analysis, comparing Lightsey's DNA to samples taken from Jessica's clothing. Despite the heightened suspicions surrounding Lightsey, the results of the DNA analysis delivered a sobering blow. There was no match between Lightsey's DNA and the samples collected from Jessica's clothing. In reviewing the case of Jessica Martinez, Mr. Mark Bingaman, the former sheriff's commander from Kings County, cast a shadow of doubt over the handling of Jessica Martinez's tragic kidnap-murder case by the Bakersfield police. Drawing upon his extensive experience in law enforcement, Mr. Bingaman raises compelling concerns about potential mishandling and oversights in the investigation. Mr. Bingaman's critique stems from his involvement in a similar high-profile murder case in Lemoore, California, in 1995. In that instance, the victim, Maria Piseo, an innocent 8-year-old girl, was subjected to the horrors of kidnapping, assault, and murder. The perpetrator callously discarded her body in Poso Creek in Kern County after committing the brutal crime. In a testament to the tenacity and dedication of law enforcement, Bingaman led a team of investigators who relentlessly pursued justice in Maria Piseo's case. Their exhaustive efforts ultimately culminated in the arrest and conviction of Navy Petty Officer Gene McCurdy, a resident of Wasco, California. McCurdy's apprehension brought closure to a community grappling with the aftermath of a senseless tragedy. However, Bingaman's suspicions extend beyond the confines of Maria Piseo's case. He harbors a deep-seated belief that McCurdy may have been involved in Jessica Martinez's murder, which occurred 5 years prior to Maria's tragic death. Describing McCurdy as a monster, Bingaman points to a series of troubling red flags that suggest a possible connection between McCurdy and Jessica's murder. During questioning, Gene McCurdy's reaction to the mention of Jessica Martinez was nothing short of shocking. According to Bingaman, McCurdy's visceral response, including falling out of his chair, hinted at a deeper connection to the case than initially presumed. Further probing into the matter reportedly led McCurdy to make statements amounting to what could be interpreted as a confession, but the record of the conversation has never been released. Bingaman's pursuit of truth extended beyond the confines of the interrogation room. His investigative team embarked on a comprehensive journey, spanning locations as far-reaching as Whidbey Island, Washington, in a quest to gather evidence against McCurdy. The diligent scrutiny of Navy records and meticulous gathering of evidence underscored the gravity of the allegations levied against McCurdy, painting a picture of a man with ties to multiple tragedies spanning across state lines. According to sources that were close to the investigation, including Bingaman, Gene McCurdy had a regular habit of returning to Bakersfield, California, whenever the opportunity arose to visit his parents. This detail becomes particularly significant in light of Jessica Martinez's kidnapping on May 10th, with Mother's Day looming just 3 days later. The proximity of these events raises questions about the timing of McCurdy's visits to Bakersfield and whether they could be linked to Jessica's disappearance. The timing of Jessica's kidnapping also serves as a haunting reminder of the raw emotional wounds inflicted upon her loved ones. Nellie Mesa, Jessica's mother, finds solace in Mr. Bingaman's relentless pursuit of answers. Yet, her heartache is palpable as she grapples with lingering doubts and questions about the investigation. Bingaman's revelations serve as a pivotal moment for reflection within the law enforcement community. The haunting echoes of Jessica's voice, intertwined with the cries of countless other victims, resonate through the corridors of justice, igniting a fervent call for accountability and closure in the wake of incomprehensible loss and grief. Years after Jessica's tragic death, a glimmer of hope emerged from the depths of despair. On April 22, 2008, Kern County District Attorney officials delivered a long-awaited breakthrough in the case. The discovery of male and female DNA on Martinez's shorts represented hope and possibility, offering renewed promise of uncovering vital clues and bringing forth the truth that has eluded investigators for far too long. For Jessica and her grieving loved ones, this development signified more than just a potential breakthrough. It symbolized the possibility of justice finally being served. As of today, there have been no matches to the DNA on Jessica's clothing. However, investigators keep the case open and regularly check the database for any matches. In a significant development in October 2022, the Bakersfield Police Department took a proactive step in Jessica Martinez's cold case. Recognizing the enduring importance of resolving the decades-old mystery, authorities reached out to the governor's office, seeking assistance in generating new leads. In a gesture of solidarity and commitment to seeking truth and closure, Governor Gavin Newsom responded by authorizing a substantial reward of $50,000 for any information that would lead to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for Jessica's tragic fate. The announcement of the reward brought a glimmer of hope to Nellie Mesa, the grieving mother of Jessica Martinez, who was tragically taken from her more than 30 years ago. Speaking to 17 News, Nellie expressed her profound gratitude for the long-awaited recognition of her daughter's case. "I'm very grateful that this reward has finally happened, and that Jessica's name is out there again. I would forever be grateful, and I'm hoping and praying we do get some kind of calls for the case to be solved." In addition to the reward offered by Governor Newsom, the Kern County Secret Witness Program has stepped forward to offer an additional $10,000 reward. Their contribution underscores the collective commitment of the community to seeking justice and closure for Jessica and her grieving family. Together, these rewards serve as encouragement for individuals with information to come forward and play a pivotal role in bringing long-overdue answers to light. The response to Governor Newsom's announcement regarding the reward for information in Jessica Martinez's case was nothing short of overwhelming for Nellie Mesa. Flooded with calls, emails, and texts from both clients and family members, Mesa found herself surrounded by a wave of support and encouragement. The news brought a sense of elation to Jessica's family and friends, who felt as though Newsom's intervention breathed new life into the pursuit of justice for Jessica and her grieving loved ones. In light of the outpouring of support, Mesa issued a heartfelt plea to anyone with information regarding Jessica's case. "Please come forward if you know something or think you know something and are not sure. Please come forward and talk to one of the detectives or call the secret witness line." For Mesa and Jessica's family, closure in Jessica's case would represent more than just the resolution of a decades-old mystery. It would signify justice served, a testament to the enduring love and memory of a cherished daughter and sister. For anyone holding information regarding Jessica Martinez's murder, the Bakersfield Police Department and Secret Witness Program are urging you to come forward. Your assistance could be crucial in bringing closure to Jessica's family and finally uncovering the truth behind her tragic death. If you have any information, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant it may seem, please do not hesitate to reach out. You can contact the Bakersfield Police Department at 661-327-7111 or reach out to the Secret Witness Program at 661-322-4040. Your decision to speak up could make all the difference in ensuring justice is served for Jessica and her grieving loved ones. As we conclude our investigation of Jessica Martinez's unsolved case, one thing remains clear: the quest for justice is far from over. Despite the passage of time, the memory of Jessica and the unanswered questions surrounding her disappearance continue to linger, casting a shadow over the community of Bakersfield. In the end, our hope is that by shining a light on Jessica's story, we may one day find the answers we seek and ensure that her legacy is one of remembrance, justice, and healing.
In the beautiful expanse of Vanderhoof, British Columbia, a town was shaken to its core by the sudden and mysterious disappearance of one of its own, Madison Scott. With her vibrant spirit, Madison left a distinctive mark on the hearts of those who knew her, and her absence cast a shadow over the small, tight-knit community. Madison vanished without a trace in 2011, leaving her family and friends grappling with unanswered questions and unspoken fears. As they grappled with the grim reality of Madison's fate, the call for justice echoed through the streets, a testament to the unwavering resolve of those who refused to let her memory fade into obscurity. Amidst the darkness, there remains a flicker of hope, a beacon of solidarity and resilience that illuminates the path forward. As the residents of Vanderhoof rallied together to support Madison's family and grieving loved ones, the bonds of community and compassion served as a source of strength in the face of unimaginable loss. With the investigation still ongoing and the possibility of foul play looming large, the road to closure remains fraught with challenges. Let's delve into the unsolved case and see if we can discover what may have happened to Madison Scott on that night in 2011. Welcome back to Fireside Unsolved, Episode 74, The Unsolved Murder of Madison Scott. On April 29, 1991, a young woman named Madison Scott entered the world to parents Eldon and Dawn Scott. Madison wasn't just another face in the crowd. She was the heartbeat of her family, with two siblings, Ben and Georgia, who shared her every laugh and every tear. She was more than just a small-town girl. She was a thrill-seeker, finding peace and solace in the adrenaline rush of dirt biking, the grace of figure skating, and the freedom of horseback riding. But her passions didn't end there. She embraced the camaraderie of team sports and cherished the moments spent with her closest friends. Madison also found herself drawn into the rugged world of the logging industry, working side by side with her father as an apprentice heavy-duty mechanic. It was a role that defied stereotypes, where grease-stained coveralls were as familiar to her as makeup, embodying a duality that mirrored the complexity of her character. Against the backdrop of Vanderhoof, a small town of approximately 4,300 people, where everyone knew everyone else's business, she walked the halls of Nechako Valley High School, graduating in 2009. Described as a vibrant soul with an infectious energy, Madison Scott lit up any room she entered. Her vivacious, fun-loving spirit radiated through every smile, every laugh, every spontaneous adventure she was a part of. We jump to May of 2011 as twilight settled over the rugged landscape of Vanderhoof, British Columbia. On the evening of May 27, 2011, Madison Scott, a vibrant 20-year-old at this time, set out on a journey to Hogsback Lake. Behind the wheel of her trusty white 1990 Ford F-150 pickup truck, she navigated the winding roads with her best friend Geordie Bolduc by her side, their laughter echoing through the night as they headed towards a friend's birthday celebration. At approximately 8 p.m., Madison and Geordie arrived at Hogsback Lake and proceeded to gather firewood until around 8:30 p.m. At 8:30, realizing she didn't bring a big enough tent, Madison left the lake and returned to her home to pick up a larger one. She briefly spoke with her mother while she was home, and by 9:30 p.m. Madison was back at the lake. She set her tent up until about 10 p.m., and then she joined her friends at the party. Around 11 p.m., Madison and her father exchanged texts to say everything was going well. However, as the night wore on at the birthday party, tensions simmered beneath the surface until they erupted into a violent altercation around midnight. In the chaos that ensued, Geordie found herself injured, prompting her to hastily depart the party with her boyfriend. Despite Geordie's pleas for Madison to leave with them, she steadfastly chose to remain at the party and the campsite. At approximately 1:40 a.m., some other friends from the party decided to head home and asked Madison if she wanted to leave with them. But again, Madison declined. The last of the friends left the party at approximately 3 a.m., and this was also the last reported sighting of Madison. It wasn't until the following morning that Geordie and her boyfriend returned to the lake so she could gather her tent and belongings from the night before. When they arrived, Madison's tent was still there. However, it stood empty, her belongings scattered haphazardly to the side of the tent. Yet there was no sign of Madison herself, but Geordie and her boyfriend gathered her things and left, thinking she had gone for a walk or possibly swimming in the lake. As the sun dipped below the horizon on that night, May 28, 2011, Hogsback Lake was the location of another, even larger gathering, with approximately 150 people descending upon its shores. During the party that carried on into the early hours of the morning, Madison's tent was somehow flattened, a testament to the rowdiness that had engulfed the campsite. Though an individual linked to the damage was later identified and questioned by Royal Canadian Mounted Police, details regarding his motives remain confidential, leaving unanswered questions lingering in the air. As the hours stretched into a full day and night without hearing from their daughter, Madison's silence spoke volumes to her parents, and it was a stark departure from her usual communication. With each unanswered call and unanswered message, dread settled over her loved ones like a suffocating blanket, their worst fears slowly materializing before their eyes. As the dawn broke on May 29, 2011, Madison's parents arrived at Hogsback Lake, their hearts heavy with concern for their daughter. At the lake, they would find Madison's collapsed tent and locked pickup truck still parked. With a sense of urgency, they reached out to Royal Canadian Mounted Police, their voices trembling as they uttered the words that would forever alter the course of their lives. Our daughter is missing. And so, the investigation into Madison's disappearance officially began. A race against time to unravel the tangled web of clues and uncover the truth. Despite the absence of physical evidence suggesting any kind of struggle, the eerie silence surrounding Madison's disappearance only deepened the mystery. As investigators combed through the sparse clues left behind, they found themselves grappling with the unsettling truth. Madison had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only whispers of what had transpired on that fateful night. Among the belongings missing from the scene were two critical items of Madison's: her beloved iPhone 4, adorned with a light blue case, and a jangling bundle of keys, including the unmistakable Ford pickup truck key, dangling from a Gothic-style lanyard. These seemingly mundane possessions took on a newfound significance, serving as the only tangible items connecting Madison to the mystery of her disappearance. In the wake of Madison's disappearance, the peaceful shores of Hogsback Lake transformed into a frenzied hive of activity, as search teams descended upon the area with unwavering determination. With the precision of a well-oiled machine, search efforts spanned every conceivable vantage point, from foot patrols and quad expeditions to horseback excursions and aerial reconnaissance. The relentless hum of helicopters filled the air, their forward-looking infrared cameras scouring the landscape for any sign of life amidst the unforgiving terrain. Cadaver dogs sniffed tirelessly, divers plunged into the icy depths, but the search extended far beyond the confines of Hogsback Lake, stretching across a vast expanse of rugged wilderness encompassing thousands of square kilometers. From Isle Pierre to Fraser Lake, and from Fort St. James to the shadowy depths of Sincut Mountain, no stone was left unturned in the search for Madison. As time continued to pass, hope flickered like a dying flame in the face of overwhelming uncertainty. Yet, amidst the despair, the resilient spirit of the search teams burned bright. Madison Scott's loved ones refused to give up looking for her, turning to every available avenue in their desperate search for truth. Across the sprawling expanse of Vanderhoof and beyond, billboards stood tall, their messages a haunting reminder of a life abruptly halted. With unwavering resolve, family and friends mobilized, their voices echoing through the corridors of media and beyond. From heartfelt pleas plastered on signs to impassioned interviews broadcasted to the masses, they left no stone unturned in their tireless crusade for justice. As the investigation into Madison Scott's disappearance continued, theories swirled like whispers in the wind, each one offering a glimpse into the infinite possibilities surrounding her vanishing. Among them, some speculated on connections to the haunting Highway of Tears and the tragic plight of missing and murdered Indigenous women along the roadway. Another theory cast a spotlight on the figure of Fribbjørn Bjørnson, a troubled soul with a history stained by addiction. Whispers of social ties between Madison and Bjørnson spread, and the specter of suspicion loomed large, prompting exhaustive investigations into his potential involvement. However, it revealed no substantial links between either case, leaving the truth uncertain. As the years stretched on, the echoes of Madison's voice grew fainter, lost amidst the cacophony of unanswered questions. The long-awaited discovery of Madison Scott's remains on May 29, 2023, marked a bittersweet moment in the ongoing saga of her disappearance. After 12 agonizing years of uncertainty, the relentless pursuit of truth had finally yielded a grim revelation. On a rural property on the east side of Vanderhoof, the RCMP officers meticulously combed through the scene, and the weight of the case hung heavy in the air. With the confirmation of Madison's identity by the British Columbia Coroner's Service, The finality of her fate sent ripples through the hearts of those who had clung to hope Madison was still alive, even through the darkest of nights. As Royal Canadian Mounted Police Corporal Madonna Saunderson affirmed, the possibility of foul play had not been ruled out. Though no arrests have been made, they remain determined to bring closure to Madison's grieving loved ones. As Corporal Saunderson reiterated, the search for answers continues, and each piece of information serves as a potential key to unlocking the truth. With the police's tip line open to receive any leads, the call for assistance echoes through the community and beyond, a rallying cry for justice in Madison Scott's name. Anyone with information is encouraged to call the RCMP Police's tip line at 778-290-5291 or 877-543-4822. Madison Scott's distinctive features, including her vibrant green eyes, natural red hair, and array of piercings, painted a vivid portrait of a young woman who left a definite mark on those who knew her. Her wrist tattooed with the delicate image of a bird, a symbol of freedom and resilience, spoke volumes about her spirit and strength. As the sun sets over Vanderhoof, a sense of calm descends upon the community, tempered by the knowledge that Madison's journey back home, where she belongs, has reached its somber conclusion. Though her physical presence may have faded, her spirit lives on in the hearts of those who loved her. And so, until Madison's murderer has been put behind bars, the journey towards healing unfolds, letting us remember Madison's vibrant spirit and the impact she made on the world around her. We hope that her memory can be a guiding light in the darkest of times, inspiring us all to cherish each moment and hold on to hope, even in the face of tragedy.
Thank you for... In 1991, a woman by the name of Angela Hammond went missing, sending shockwaves through the tight-knit community of Clinton, Missouri. Angela, a recent graduate of Montrose High School, was a beloved figure in the town, known for her popularity and outgoing personality. Engaged and 4 months pregnant, she was on the cusp of embarking on a new chapter in her life. The night of April 4th, 1991, marked the last time Angela was seen in Clinton. At 11:45 p.m., she was engaged in a phone conversation with her fiancé, Rob Schaefer, at a telephone booth in the heart of town. Little did anyone know that this seemingly ordinary moment would be the beginning of a mystery that would endure for decades. Welcome back to Fireside Unsolved, Episode 75, The Unsolved Disappearance of Angela Hammond. Clinton, Missouri, a picturesque and tranquil town in the heartland of the United States, offered a sense of safety and community that its residents cherished. Nestled away from the hustle and bustle of major cities, Clinton in 1991 felt like a haven where neighbors knew each other and crime seemed a distant concern. However, this serene atmosphere was brutally shattered by an event that would forever haunt the town and its residents. Angela Hammond, a 20-year-old vibrant and beloved member of the community, was deeply in love with her boyfriend, Rob Schaefer. Their relationship had blossomed into a commitment for the future, especially after they discovered Angela was pregnant. The news brought joy and a sense of responsibility to the young couple. Rob, a devoted partner, promised Angela that he would always stand by her side and take care of her and their unborn child. Their engagement symbolized a hopeful future filled with dreams of a family and life together. On the evening of April 4th, 1991, Angela and Rob had plans that were part of their everyday routine, but would soon turn into a sequence of events leading to a devastating mystery. Angela dropped Rob off at his parents' house, where he was to watch his younger brother. The plan was simple. Angela would run some errands and then call Rob to arrange a time to meet up later that night. About an hour later, Angela Hammond called Rob Schaefer from a payphone in a parking lot outside the Food Barn store, located near Jefferson Street and 2nd Street, approximately 7 blocks away from Rob's house. It was late at night and the usually bustling town had quieted down, leaving the streets nearly empty. While talking, she mentioned a suspicious man who had been circling the parking lot in a Ford pickup truck, and that it seemed out of place. She described it to Rob in detail, a green Ford pickup truck from the 1970s, with a distinctive picture of fish in the back window. Angela described him as a filthy, bearded man. The unusual sighting made Angela uneasy, but she continued talking to Rob, seeking reassurance. Angela told Rob during their phone call that she was too tired to meet as planned and intended to go home and take a bath instead. She then noted that the man parked his truck near the phone booth and got out, holding a flashlight as if searching for something. Concerned, Rob suggested Angela ask the man if he needed to use the phone, thinking the other phone might be broken. Angela followed his advice and asked if he needed to call someone. Rob could hear the man's response over the phone. No. Relieved, Angela and Rob continued their conversation. But moments later, Rob was horrified to hear Angela suddenly scream, and then the line went dead. Panic surged through him. He dropped his phone and ran out of the house, desperate to reach Angela and help her. Rob Schaefer immediately drove to the phone booth after hearing Angela's scream. As he sped through the streets, he passed a late 1960s or early 1970s green Ford F-150 pickup truck. To his horror, he heard Angela scream his name from the truck. Determined to rescue her, Schaefer pursued the vehicle for about a mile or so on 2nd Street and Culvert Drive. Unfortunately, his own car's transmission failed, forcing him to stop and watch helplessly as the truck disappeared into the distance. Rob provided a detailed description of the truck to the authorities. He noted that it had a decal of water or an outdoor scene completely covering the rear window, possibly a white top, and potential damage to its left front fender. Witnesses corroborated Schaefer's account, reporting that they had seen a Caucasian male driving a similar truck near the phone booth around the time Angela disappeared. The man who abducted Angela Hammond has never been identified. Witnesses described him as wearing coveralls and a dark-colored baseball cap. He had eyeglasses, a beard, and a mustache. A composite sketch of the suspect, created based on witness descriptions, was issued to the public, but there was still no luck in identifying the man. Rob Schaefer, Angela's fiancé, was initially considered a suspect in her abduction. He underwent a polygraph test as part of the investigation, and he was eventually cleared of any involvement in Angela's disappearance, with authorities confirming that he had no part in the unsolved crime. Authorities believe that Angela Hammond's case may be linked to the disappearances of 2 other women in Missouri. Trudy Darby, a convenience store worker in Max Creek, Missouri, was abducted from her workplace on January 19, 1991. Then approximately 5 weeks later, another kidnapping. Cheryl Ann Kenny, a convenience store worker, vanished on February 27, 1991, after closing her store in Nevada, Missouri, which is about 70 miles from Max Creek. After Darby was taken, her store was found to have been robbed of $220. Tragically, Darby's nude body was discovered 2 days later in the Little Niangua River. She had been shot twice in the head with a shotgun. The investigation into Darby's murder led to the conviction of half-brothers Jesse Rush and Marvin Cheney, who were found guilty of the robbery, assault, and murder of Trudy Darby. There are similarities between Trudy Darby's murder, Angela Hammond's abduction, and Cheryl Ann Kenny's disappearance, but no hard evidence has been found to definitively link the cases. Following Angela Hammond's disappearance, there were several unconfirmed sightings of her reported across various states and even in Canada. Despite these potential leads, none provided concrete evidence to resolve her case. At the time of her disappearance, Angela was leading a busy and promising life. She worked at a bank and was also attending classes at Central Missouri State University in Warrensburg, Missouri. Her abduction not only shattered the sense of safety in her community, but also left a void in the lives of those who knew and loved her. On the 30th anniversary of Angela Hammond's disappearance, the Clinton, Missouri Police Department made a heartfelt post on its Facebook page. The post emphasized their ongoing commitment to solving the case and reassured Angela Hammond's family that they have not given up on finding answers. There are still several active and open leads being considered, the post read. This message renewed hope for the family and community, underscoring that despite the passage of time, the quest for justice and closure for Angela Hammond remains a priority for law enforcement. One of those leads that the Facebook post alluded to led to a terrifying possibility, linking Angela to a confidential informant's testimony, which played a crucial role in dismantling a major illegal drug operation in the area. When the informant's identity was revealed during the case, he received a chilling letter composed of cut-and-paste characters, reminiscent of a ransom note from a Hollywood kidnapping movie. The Clinton Police Department shared a copy of this peculiar letter on their Facebook post, with the informant's number and his wife's name redacted for privacy. The letter addressed the informant by the confidential number assigned to him to protect his identity before the court case. It also mentioned his estranged wife by her first name. Significantly, the letter was sent on April 4, 1991, the same night Angela Hammond was abducted. At the time, the informant's wife and his daughter, also named Angela, were living in Clinton, Missouri. This eerie coincidence has led to speculation about potential connections between the informant's court case and Angela Hammond's disappearance. Investigators suspect that members of a criminal organization may have taken the informant's daughter as retaliation for his testimony. This theory suggests that there was a case of mistaken identity, as the targeted individual, referred to as Angie, bore a physical resemblance to Angela Hammond, and this led to Angela's abduction. In a significant development, an anonymous individual reached out to the police and left a message regarding the Angela Hammond case. The Clinton, Missouri Police Department concluded their Facebook post with a plea directed towards this anonymous informant. That person specifically mentioned two names. "You did not provide a means for us to recontact you," said Clinton police. "If that person is reading this message, please recontact us so that we can speak with you in real time. We will protect your identity or assure your anonymity." This plea underscores the importance of this individual's information in potentially unraveling the mystery surrounding Angela Hammond's disappearance. Though decades have passed since that fateful night in April 1991, the search for answers and closure remains ongoing. We urge anyone with information, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant, to come forward and help bring peace to Angela's family and friends. If you have any information or tips regarding the disappearance of Angela Hammond or any related matters, please do not hesitate to contact the Clinton Police Department at 660-885-5561. Your information could be crucial in bringing closure to this case and providing answers to Angela's family and loved ones. Your cooperation is greatly appreciated, and rest assured that your identity will be protected. As we conclude our exploration of Angela Hammond's disappearance, the echoes of her story continue to reverberate through the community of Clinton, Missouri, and beyond. The unresolved nature of Angela's case serves as a poignant reminder of the enduring pain felt by those loved ones left behind after such a tragedy, and the lingering questions that haunt those who remember her. Yet, amidst the darkness of uncertainty, there remains a glimmer of hope. A hope that one day, the truth will emerge, and justice will prevail. Together, let us continue to shine a light on this mystery and honor Angela's memory by seeking the truth.
Welcome back to Fireside, where we dive into the most captivating unsolved mysteries, riveting cold cases, and compelling stories that history has to offer. Tonight, we explore a chilling story that has puzzled investigators, captivated the public, and haunted the loved ones of Brandon Swanson since the night he disappeared in 2008. Despite extensive search efforts, numerous investigations, and widespread media coverage, Brandon's fate remains unknown, leaving a void in the hearts of his family and a lingering question mark over what really happened that night. On this episode, we aim to delve deep into the various facets of Brandon Swanson's disappearance, providing a comprehensive overview of the events leading up to and following his vanishing. We'll look into the subsequent search efforts and investigation, as well as the wide array of theories and speculations that have emerged over the years. So, grab your favorite drink, or something you might need a flame for, if that's your thing, and settle in for episode 76 on Fireside Unsolved, the unsolved disappearance of Brandon Swanson. Brandon Swanson was born on January 30th, 1989, to Brian and Annette Swanson in Marshall, Minnesota. He grew up in a tight-knit family, along with his sister, and was known for his friendly demeanor, intelligence, and ambition. As a young man, Brandon had a passion for renewable energy. So, after graduating from high school, he enrolled at Minnesota West Community and Technical College to pursue a degree in wind power. Brandon's interest in harnessing energy from wind turbines was not merely academic. He genuinely believed in the potential of renewable energy sources to make a positive impact on the environment. This passion drove him to excel in his studies, and he was well regarded by his peers and professors alike. Outside of his academic pursuits, Brandon enjoyed a typical social life for a 19-year-old who was born and raised in the state of Minnesota, spending time with friends enjoying the outdoors and exploring the rural landscapes of the state. On the evening of May 13, 2008, Brandon and his friends kicked off the night with celebration. It marked the official close of their first academic year at Minnesota West, and they intended to commemorate the occasion by attending parties in both Canby and Lind, Minnesota. Arriving at their first stop that evening in Canby around 8 o'clock, the atmosphere was lively, filled with the anticipation of the upcoming summer break. Later, around 10:30 p.m., Brandon and his friends shifted to the next party in Lind, Minnesota, where they continued to enjoy the festivities of the night. Witnesses from both gatherings attested to Brandon's cheerful demeanor throughout the night. Though he indulged in alcohol at both events, friends noted it was moderate, and he showed no obvious signs of intoxication. At midnight, Brandon made the decision to depart from the party in Lind with the intention of driving back to his parents' home in Marshall, Minnesota, where he resided during his freshman year of college. The journey, spanning 30 miles, or 48 kilometers, along predominantly rural roads, was estimated to take around 30 minutes. At approximately 1:15 a.m., Brandon's Chevrolet Lumina swerved off a gravel road, ending up lodged in a ditch. Despite Brandon's efforts to free the vehicle himself, he found himself unable to do so. Seeking aid, Brandon used his cell phone to dial his parents' number at 1:45 a.m. The call roused Brian and Annette Swanson from their slumber, with Brandon informing them of his predicament, but assuring them of his physical well-being. Brandon's parents immediately left their home in search of their son. Despite grappling with persistent patchy cell signal on both ends, Brandon continued relaying his surroundings to his parents. However, as the conversation progressed, the details Brandon was providing of his surroundings seemed incongruent with the known landmarks of the area. Despite attempts to signal each other by flashing their headlights and sounding their car horn, Brian and Annette continued scouring the area in a desperate bid to signal Brandon, but their efforts yielded no success. Finally acknowledging the futility of the situation, Brandon informed his parents of his decision to venture towards the distant lights he believed to be emanating from Lind, Minnesota, a small town roughly 7 miles, 11 kilometers southwest of Marshall, where his family home was. Following Brandon's instructions, his father headed to the parking lot of a local bar Brandon told him he would walk to, while maintaining the phone conversation. As he navigated his way towards the bar, Brandon described crossing a fence and hearing the sound of water, hinting at his proximity to a creek or river. At around 2:30 a.m., 47 minutes into the call, Brandon abruptly exclaimed, "Oh shit," before falling silent. Despite the Swansons' frantic attempts to reconnect, there was no response from Brandon's cell phone. In the ensuing hours, the Swansons scoured the vicinity, but neither Brandon nor his car could be located. Obviously concerned for their son's safety, they reported him missing to the Lind police at 6:30 a.m. Initially met with indifference, the Swansons were told that it was not uncommon for young men his age to stay out late after the culmination of college classes. This response left them bewildered and anxious. However, eventually a search was initiated by the Lind police, but no trace of Brandon was unearthed within the town or its outskirts. Seeking further assistance in finding their son, the Swansons enlisted the support of neighboring Lyon County Sheriff Joel Dahl's office. To streamline the search efforts, the sheriff's office obtained Brandon's cell phone records, which pinpointed his location to the vicinity of Taunton, Minnesota, along State Highway 68. Subsequently, Brandon's car was discovered lodged in a ditch off a gravel road in Taunton, approximately 20 miles from his perceived location. County Sheriff Jack Vizecki informed the media that Brandon's Chevrolet Lumina had become stuck atop an incline at the road's edge, causing the wheels on one side to lose contact with the ground. Although the car remained largely undamaged, the lack of tracks in the grass and gravel surrounding it rendered it impossible to ascertain Brandon's initial direction of travel. Sheriff Joel Dahl of Lyon County pointed out that from the area where Brandon's car was found, a red light atop a grain elevator in Taunton was visible. He theorized that Brandon might have mistaken this light for a signal from Lind, leading him to believe that he was within walking distance of the town. To bolster ground efforts, aerial teams conducted flyovers, while search dogs, including teams from the Twin Cities and bloodhounds from Codington County, South Dakota, were deployed. The bloodhounds picked up a scent trail stretching 3 miles, approximately 5 kilometers, primarily following field roads west-northwest to an abandoned farm, and then along the Yellow Medicine River, where it appeared to lead into the stream. As the search expanded, authorities from Yellow Medicine County also joined the effort, recognizing that part of the search radius extended into their jurisdiction. Further investigation revealed that Brandon's cell phone call had been routed through a tower near Minneota, Minnesota, another town along Highway 68. By May 15th, authorities determined that the call had originated within a 5-mile radius of the tower's location, prompting search efforts to concentrate in that vicinity. A comprehensive search of the surrounding area ensued, encompassing fields, ditches, and waterways, yet yielded no trace of Brandon. The absence of any discernible footprints, personal effects, or other evidence complicated the search efforts, leaving search teams at a loss regarding Brandon's possible whereabouts. Responding to the possibility of Brandon's drowning, boats from the state's Department of Natural Resources scoured the river, and gates were installed as precautionary measures. Sheriff Dahl observed that while the water levels had receded from the morning of Brandon's disappearance, some areas in Lincoln County had previously been as deep as 10 feet. Deputies meticulously patrolled the riverbanks, while horses and all-terrain vehicles traversed the surrounding terrain. However, somewhat strangely, Sheriff Dahl deemed an extensive, organized ground search unnecessary. Despite the initial search yielding no breakthroughs, Sheriff Vizecki remained steadfast, personally walking the 2-mile stretch of the Yellow Medicine River daily for 30 days. Meanwhile, the Swanson family left their porch light shining each night as a symbol of their enduring hope for Brandon's safe return or discovery. Search efforts were reignited later in the year, following the harvest of fields planted shortly after Brandon's disappearance. Canine units continued to track scents of human remains, leading them to previously unsearched areas northwest of Porter. The search cycle persisted into the following spring, and this pattern endured for years, culminating in a total search area spanning 122 square miles, 320 kilometers. In 2010, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension assumed leadership of the investigation, signaling a renewed push for answers in Brandon Swanson's mysterious disappearance. The establishment of a tip line garnered a total of 90 leads by 2015, indicating ongoing public interest and concern. During this period, official search efforts redirected their focus towards Mud Creek, a tributary of the Yellow Medicine River situated north and northwest of Porter. Despite indications from One Dog's Trail leading to the Yellow Medicine River, Annette Swanson remains unconvinced that her son met his fate by drowning there. The trail extended across the river, along the opposite bank, to another gravel road, and ultimately terminated near the Yellow Medicine County line. Expressing skepticism regarding the drowning theory, Annette Swanson highlighted Brandon's lack of disorientation or confusion during their phone conversations, despite any alcohol he may have consumed earlier. While acknowledging the remote possibility of Brandon intentionally disappearing, both parents dismissed this notion, firmly believing their son would not choose such a course of action. Sheriff Vizecki, meanwhile, refrains from ruling out foul play, speculating on the potential involvement of an unseen assailant. Reflecting on the initial response from Lynn Police, Annette Swanson recalls the dismissive sentiment conveyed when she first reported her son missing. This dismissiveness underscores her conviction that something grave had indeed occurred. "I'm his mother, and I knew something was horribly wrong," she reflected, encapsulating the unwavering maternal instinct that has fueled the Swansons' relentless pursuit for answers. In response to the challenges they faced in reporting their son's disappearance, Annette and Brian Swanson embarked on a mission to enact legislative change. Their advocacy efforts culminated in a pivotal meeting between Annette and Marty Seifert, the minority leader of the State House of Representatives at the time. The meeting, held in a local restaurant, served as a platform for Annette to articulate the difficulties encountered when reporting Brandon missing. Despite acknowledging that the proposed legislation wouldn't impact their own case, Annette recognized its potential to safeguard future individuals in similar circumstances. Moved by Annette's advocacy, Seifert spearheaded the introduction of a bill known as Brandon's Law. This bill aimed to amend existing legislation governing the state's missing child program, broadening its scope to encompass missing adults by substituting the term child with person. However, the proposal faced initial resistance, particularly from within the law enforcement community. Concerns surrounding privacy, particularly in relation to cell phone tracking technology, emerged as a focal point of debate during the legislative process. Despite these hurdles, Dennis Frederickson introduced a companion bill in the state Senate, signaling bipartisan support for the initiative. Ultimately, after passing both chambers with overwhelming support, including a unanimous vote in the House, Governor Tim Pawlenty signed Brandon's Law into effect in May 2009. The significance of this legislative victory was underscored by the presence of the Swanson family, including their daughter Jameen, at the bill signing ceremony. Their tireless advocacy had not only secured justice for Brandon, but also established a framework to protect countless others in similar circumstances. The impact of Brandon's Law extended beyond mere procedural changes. It mandated that law enforcement agencies take immediate action upon receiving reports of missing individuals. Not only were they required to ascertain the missing person's status and potential risk factors, but they were also obligated to promptly notify neighboring law enforcement entities. Furthermore, the legislation clarified that the agency receiving the missing person report would serve as the lead investigator throughout the case. This provision aimed to streamline coordination among multiple jurisdictions, addressing challenges encountered during the later phases of Brandon Swanson's initial search. Importantly, Brandon's law prohibited law enforcement from dismissing missing person reports based on subjective assessments or assumptions regarding the circumstances. Regardless of perceived criminality, time elapsed since the individual was last seen, or suspicions of intentional disappearance, authorities were mandated to take every report seriously. Since its enactment in July 2009, Brandon's law has served as a model for similar legislation in 4 other states, reflecting its profound impact and life-saving potential. The disappearance of Brandon Swanson remains a haunting unsolved mystery, with its multitude of unanswered questions. Despite the efforts in the search for Brandon, the absence of closure serves as a tragic reminder of the depths of uncertainty that can occur with such a sudden and unexpected loss. As the years continue to pass, the echoes of Brandon's vanishing continue to echo through time and into the hearts of those who knew him. A testament to the power of unresolved mysteries to captivate and confound those of us left behind to grieve. Thank you for joining us. We'll keep your seat around the fire safe for you. Until next time, on Fireside Unsolved.
Welcome back to Fireside, where the flames continue to flicker on history's darkest unsolved mysteries. For us, serial killers are inherently terrifying, but when they are given a nickname as ominous as Stone Man, the fear intensifies tenfold. In 1989, the bustling streets of Calcutta, India, were haunted by an unidentified serial killer who brutally murdered at least 13 homeless individuals while they slept. The terror in Calcutta echoed a similar string of unsolved murders in Mumbai from 1985 to 1988, where another 13 innocent souls met a grisly end under eerily similar circumstances. Authorities speculated that these heinous acts might have been committed by the same person, suggesting the possibility of a single perpetrator responsible for as many as 26 cold-blooded killings. From the darkest alleys of Calcutta and Mumbai to the ink-stained pages of newspaper headlines, we delve into the heart of this case, exploring the history, patterns, theories, and the profound impact the killings have left on society. Next on Fireside Unsolved, Episode 77, let's investigate the unsolved case of the Stone Man murders. The first indications of a serial killer emerged in the sprawling metropolis of Mumbai, India, in 1985, when around 4 o'clock one morning, a piercing shriek shattered the pre-dawn silence. A woman awoke to a horrifying scene near Gandhi Market at King's Circle, a homeless man bludgeoned to death with a heavy stone. This incident was initially dismissed as the work of a thief who had been startled by the sleeping victim and resorted to murder. But, unfortunately, this would be the first of many killings, the beginning of a chilling murder spree that would later be attributed to a now notorious serial killer known as Stone Man. Over the next 3 years, a series of 12 additional gruesome murders plagued the Sion and King's Circle areas of Mumbai. It was only after the 6th murder that Mumbai police finally began to take notice and recognize a pattern in the crimes. The killer's method in every murder was brutally simple. They would find an unsuspecting homeless victim, sleeping alone in a deserted area of the city, away from the public eye, and in the shadow of the night they would crush their head with a boulder, often weighing up to 70 pounds. Investigations also revealed that the killer was operating within a radius of approximately 3 miles between Sion and King's Circle. The locations of the corpses led to the conclusion that the killer searched for and killed the victims between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. But despite the consistent time frame and geographic area, there were no eyewitnesses to these brutal acts. The initial investigations were hampered by a lack of forensic technology and resources. The absence of advanced forensic tools meant that critical evidence, such as fingerprints or DNA, was either not collected or not analyzable with the technology available at the time. The transient nature of the victims also made it difficult to establish their identities and backgrounds, complicating the search for connections or patterns beyond the method of their deaths. However, like mentioned previously, one of the primary obstacles of the investigation was the lack of any eyewitnesses. The killer only operated under the cover of darkness, and his attacks were swift and silent. So as panic spread throughout India, so did rumors. One theory suggested that the killer was seeking to achieve spiritual goals, with each murder serving as a human sacrifice to please the goddess Kali. Giving credence to this theory was that the killings occurred on Tuesdays and Saturdays, days ruled by the gods Mangal and Shani, astrological signs often associated with evil, doom, and black magic. The residents of Mumbai were gripped by panic, and by 10 o'clock each night, the streets were deserted. Homeless individuals, fearing for their lives, formed vigilante groups to keep watch. The press dubbed the killer Pathar Mar, or Stone Killer, which the English media translated to Stone Man. The police knew the killer's hunting ground and positioned teams throughout the night, hoping to catch him. With all of the murders being committed inside of a 3-mile radius, police were hoping that the area was manageable to patrol and keep a watchful eye. Yet, Stone Man outsmarted all of them, continuing to kill one homeless person after another, as if this killer was just watching and waiting for them to fall asleep in order to make his move. A potential breakthrough emerged when a waiter from a small restaurant from Udupi, India, was admitted to a hospital with a severe head wound. He told authorities at the hospital that he had been sleeping on the pavement and narrowly escaped being bludgeoned to death by mere centimeters. However, the dim lighting in the area prevented him from getting a good look at his assailant, leaving investigators with little to go on. In the midst of 1988, the killings in Mumbai abruptly ceased. However, the reign of terror in India was far from over. On June 4, 1989, the murders that haunted Mumbai emerged in Calcutta. The target, a homeless woman peacefully sleeping on the ground near the iconic Howrah Bridge. With her tragic death, she became the first victim in this new city, setting off a ripple of terror that swiftly engulfed the populace. 1 month later, on July 4, 1989, a second victim was found. When the killings resumed in Calcutta, the police faced immense public and media pressure. Several task forces were set up, and the streets were heavily patrolled at night. Despite these efforts, the killer remained elusive. The police conducted numerous interviews, detained and questioned hundreds of suspects, and even used decoys in an attempt to lure the Stone Man into a trap. However, each lead turned into a dead end. Despite the geographic shift, the modus operandi remained hauntingly similar. The use of a heavy stone as the murder weapon, the choice of victims, and the nocturnal timing of the attacks. However, the use of both boulders and concrete slabs added a new gruesome twist to the killer's sinister deeds. The tension peaked on September 7, 1989, when the Stone Man claimed his 7th victim in Calcutta, mere steps away from the police headquarters. The brazen act of violence caused a public outcry and forced law enforcement to confront the escalating crisis head-on. Rumors circulated, suggesting that the police were unable to apprehend the culprit because they were searching for a man, while the real killer was believed to be a woman. There was an initial belief that the culprit might be mentally disturbed, and the Calcutta police narrowed their focus to individuals exhibiting signs of lunacy or madness, which ultimately led to 3 false confessions. However, the dropping a heavy stone or concrete slab on the victims' heads led the police to theorize that the assailant was likely a tall, well-built, healthy male. Despite this, no eyewitnesses ever came forward to provide a reliable physical description of a suspect. When traditional methods failed to yield results, law enforcement took a more unconventional approach. Officers disguised themselves as homeless people, blending into the surroundings. Pretending to be asleep on the roads, they concealed their firearms beneath thin blankets, patiently awaiting any sign of the killer's presence. But despite these measures, the killings continued. Over the following 6 months, 6 more men would meet the same fate, totaling 13 murders in Calcutta, and 26 killings total between Mumbai and Calcutta. While no suspects have ever been arrested, the Stone Man case has given rise to numerous theories about the identity and motives of the killer. One of the most widely discussed theories suggests that the Stone Man was a mentally disturbed individual with a deep-seated hatred or fear of the homeless. This theory is supported by the consistent choice of victims and the ferocity of the attacks. Another theory posits that the Stone Man could have been a contract killer or part of a larger criminal organization, hired to clear the streets of homeless people. This theory, while intriguing, lacks substantial evidence and has been largely dismissed by investigators. Some criminologists and psychologists have speculated that the Stone Man could have been a local resident, familiar with the areas where the killings occurred. The precise timing and location of the attacks suggest a detailed knowledge of the city's layouts and the routines of their homeless populations. There are also theories suggesting a supernatural element, with some locals believing that the Stone Man was not a human, but a vengeful spirit. These theories, while reflective of cultural beliefs, have not been taken seriously by the authorities. The Stone Man's reign of terror had a profound impact on the communities of Mumbai, Calcutta, and the nation of India as a whole. The murders instilled a deep sense of fear and paranoia, particularly among the homeless population. Many began to sleep in groups or sought shelter in more secure locations, hoping to avoid becoming the next victim. The case also sparked widespread media coverage and public outrage, leading to increased scrutiny of law enforcement agencies and their handling of the investigation. The inability to capture the killer eroded public trust and highlighted the challenges faced by the police in dealing with serial crimes, especially in densely populated urban areas. The Stone Man case also had broader societal implications, drawing attention to the plight of homeless individuals and the dangers they face. It prompted discussions about social welfare programs and the need for better protection and support for vulnerable populations. In recent years, advancements in forensic technology and criminal profiling have renewed interest in the case. Cold case units have revisited the evidence, and there have been calls for the application of modern DNA analysis techniques to any surviving samples from the crime scenes. However, the lack of preserved evidence and the passage of time present significant hurdles. Despite the passage of over 3 decades, the Stone Man case remains unsolved, and to this day, the true identity of the perpetrator remains a mystery, capturing the imagination of true crime enthusiasts and researchers alike. The brutal efficiency of the attacks, the specific choice of victims, and the complete elusiveness of the killer combine to create a narrative that is as haunting as it is compelling. Whether the identity of the Stone Man will ever be uncovered remains uncertain, but the search for answers continues, driven by the hope that one day the truth will finally come to light. Welcome back to Fireside. In this episode, we delve into the dark history of Lake Lanier, a place shrouded in tragedy and rumors of being cursed. Just last week, on Wednesday, May 31st, 2024, another life was claimed by the infamous lake. The eerie statistics are hard to ignore, over 200 deaths at the lake in the past 30 years alone. Join us as we explore the ominous legacy of Lake Lanier, examining the numerous lives it has claimed since its creation, and pondering what the future holds for this mysterious body of water. Named after Georgia poet and musician Sidney Lanier, Lake Lanier, nestled in the heart of Georgia, is more than just a popular recreational haven. It is a site steeped in a history of tragedy and racial violence. This expansive man-made lake was built over the once thriving black town of Oscarville, a community that boasted a rich culture and a robust economy. In its heyday, Oscarville was a beacon of prosperity and hope for its residents, but the town's stability was abruptly shattered in 1912 by a harrowing event. The incident that precipitated Oscarville's downfall was the death of 19-year-old May Crow, a white woman whose body was discovered in the nearby woods. The crime was hastily attributed to 4 black residents, igniting a wave of racial violence. Robert Big Rob Edwards, one of the accused, was lynched shortly after his arrest in a gruesome act of vigilante justice that shocked the community. The other 2 men blamed for Crow's death, Ernest Knox and Oscar Daniel, were later tried and hanged, further fanning the flames of racial hatred. Following these executions, mobs descended upon Oscarville with a vengeance, determined to drive black residents out of Forsyth County. The violence was relentless and indiscriminate. Homes were torched, churches and businesses were destroyed, and any semblance of peace was obliterated. The terror campaign forced more than 1,000 black residents to flee their homes, abandoning their livelihoods. This mass exodus effectively erased Oscarville from the map, turning a once thriving community into a desolate ghost town. In the aftermath, the land that once supported Oscarville was targeted for a new project. The government purchased 56,000 acres of private land to create what would become Lake Lanier. This massive undertaking was funded by a $45 million allocation from Congress, intended to provide water resources, flood control, and recreational opportunities for the region. To make way for the lake, 20 cemeteries, 15 businesses, and 6 churches that were once used by the residents of Oscarville were moved as well. Today, Lake Lanier is owned and operated by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Covering approximately 38,000 acres, it has become a central hub for boating, fishing, and various water activities, drawing some 12 million visitors annually. Despite its popularity, Lake Lanier presents inherent risks to visitors. With no lifeguards on duty, all swim areas are designated as swim at your own risk. However, the dangers extend beyond the swimming areas. Lake Lanier is notorious for its boating traffic and submerged debris, making it one of the most perilous lakes to navigate. This juxtaposition of natural beauty and hidden danger serves as a poignant reminder of the lake's complex legacy. There are unconfirmed statistics that state more than 700 people have died at Lake Lanier since its construction in the 1950s, leading to widespread beliefs that the lake is cursed and haunted. The high number of fatalities at Lake Lanier in recent years is a complex issue. With 7 to 11 million visitors annually, accidents are almost inevitable. However, between 2008 and 2018 alone, the Georgia Department of Natural Resources reported over 525 cases of boating under the influence. In 2023 alone, Lake Lanier reported the highest number of boating incidents, injuries, and incidents involving boating under the influence of any lake in the United States. This eerie reputation is also fueled by the high number of accidents occurring due to the submerged remnants of Oscarville, including cemeteries and buildings, that were not fully removed before the lake was filled. The dark, murky waters make rescues difficult, and boating under the influence remains a significant problem. Furthermore, officials highlight that many visitors, especially children, do not wear life jackets, increasing the risk of drowning. One of the most haunting tales from Lake Lanier's history is the tragic accident of 1958. 2 young girls, Delia Mae Parker Young and Susie Roberts, skidded off a bridge while crossing over Lake Lanier and disappeared. According to the Oxford American, locals claim to have seen one of the victims, Parker Young, haunting the lake. Known as the Lady of the Lake, she is said to drag unsuspecting victims to the bottom of the lake. Adding to its dark past, Lake Lanier sits near Forsyth County, an area that was part of the Cherokee Nation before the U.S. government forcibly displaced the indigenous people, leading them on the harrowing journey known as the Trail of Tears. This historical context deepens the sense of unease surrounding the lake. Some believe that vengeful spirits of those who once lived in Oscarville, or were displaced by the lake's creation, may be pulling swimmers and boaters under. Lake Lanier's serene appearance belies its dangerous and haunted reputation. As visitors flock to its waters each year, the stories of those lost and the lake's turbulent past remain a chilling reminder of the dark history lurking beneath the surface.
Photographs have the unique ability to capture moments in time, freezing them forever for us to revisit and reflect upon. They can tell stories, evoke emotions, and sometimes reveal details that escape the naked eye. Yet, every so often, a photograph emerges that defies all rational explanation, leaving us with more questions than answers. The images we will look at today promise to go beyond the ordinary, venturing into the realm of the uncanny. From eerie apparitions to unsettling discoveries that challenge our understanding of reality, these photographs continue to baffle experts and skeptics alike. What is it about these images that makes them so perplexing? Are they glimpses into another dimension, evidence of the supernatural, or just clever hoaxes? As we discover the stories behind each moment, frozen in time, you'll be drawn into a world where the lines between reality and the unknown blur. So, sit back, relax, and prepare to be intrigued by the unexplained as we present episode 79 on Fireside Unsolved, 5 mysterious photographs that cannot be explained. On June 15, 1989, an alarming discovery was made in the quiet town of Port St. Joe, Florida. A Polaroid photo, depicting an unidentified young woman and a boy, both gagged with black duct tape and bound, was found in the parking lot of a local convenience store. The woman who found the photo recalled that it was lying in a parking space where a white, windowless Toyota cargo van had been parked when she arrived. She described the driver as a man in his 30s with a mustache. Despite immediate police action, including roadblocks to intercept the vehicle, the man in the van vanished without a trace. According to Polaroid officials, the photograph had to have been taken after May 1989, as the specific type of film used was not available until then. In July 1989, the haunting Polaroid photo was broadcast to the public on the TV show A Current Affair. The image caught the attention of family friends of Tara Lee Calico, a missing woman, who thought the young woman in the picture bore a striking resemblance to Tara. They immediately contacted Tara's mother, Patty Dole. Patty met with investigators and closely examined the Polaroid. Considering time, growth, and lack of makeup, she became convinced that the woman in the photo was her daughter. One detail that stood out to Patty was a scar on the woman's leg, identical to one Tara had from a car accident. Adding to the eerie connection, a paperback copy of V.C. Andrews' My Sweet Audrina, one of Tara's favorite books, was visible next to the woman in the photograph. This further deepened the suspicion that the girl in the Polaroid might indeed be Tara Calico. The Polaroid's mysterious story continued as the boy in the photo was also tentatively identified. A family from New Mexico came forward, believing the boy resembled their missing son, 9-year-old Michael Henley. Michael had vanished in April 1988 while on a hunting trip with his father. In an interview with the New York Times, Michael's mother, Marty Henley, expressed her mixed emotions. "He looks scared, real scared, but he looks healthy, and I'm grateful for that." She was almost certain the boy in the Polaroid was her son. However, the identification of Michael Henley as the boy in the photograph was deemed highly unlikely. Then, in June 1990, Michael's remains were discovered approximately 7 miles from the campsite where he disappeared, and 75 miles from where Tara Calico vanished. Investigators believe Michael had wandered off and tragically succumbed to the elements. Further investigative scrutiny cast doubt on the nature of the Polaroid photo. Valencia Lieutenant Joseph Rowland, the lead investigator on the case, noted several inconsistencies. He pointed out that the young woman's hands didn't appear to be tightly bound, and her shoulders lacked the tension that severe bindings would cause. Rowland observed that there was no redness around the tape on the mouths of the children, which would indicate that the tape was not on their mouths for an extended period of time. Despite extensive efforts, neither the boy nor the girl in the photograph has ever been positively identified. The photo was analyzed by several agencies with conflicting results. Scotland Yard concluded that the woman was indeed Tara Calico, but a second analysis by the Los Alamos National Laboratory disagreed. An FBI analysis of the photo was inconclusive. This unresolved mystery continues to haunt investigators and the families involved, leaving more questions than answers. The Hessdalen lights are an unexplained phenomenon that has intrigued observers since the 1930s. These unidentified lights appear intermittently along a 7.5-mile stretch of the Hessdalen Valley in rural central Norway. The Hessdalen lights are a captivating phenomenon, visible both day and night. Typically bright white, yellow, or red, these lights can appear above and below the horizon. Their duration ranges from a few seconds to well over an hour. At times, the lights move with incredible speed. At other moments, they sway gently back and forth. Occasionally, they hover motionless in midair, adding to the mystery and allure of this mysterious phenomenon. The lights reached peak activity between December 1981 and mid-1984, when they were observed 15 to 20 times per week, drawing numerous overnight tourists to the valley. One theory suggests that the phenomenon might be due to an incompletely understood combustion of airborne dust from local mining activities. This analysis identified the presence of hydrogen, oxygen, and other elements, including titanium. In 2007, driven by curiosity, Professor Bjorn Hauge of Østfold University College in Halden, Norway, decided to study the Hessdalen lights. Using a camera with a 30-second exposure, he captured a remarkable photo. Upon analyzing the image, Hauge claimed that the object seen in the sky was composed of silicon, steel, titanium, and scandium. By 2010, the number of sightings had significantly decreased to only 10 to 20 per year. Despite ongoing research, No consensus has been reached regarding the cause of the Hessdalen lights, leaving this strange phenomenon still unexplained. Victor Goddard, a commander in the Royal Air Force during World War I, experienced a tragic incident involving one of his air mechanics, Freddie Jackson. Jackson met a fatal end at the HM Naval Seaplane Training School, later known as HMS Daedalus, where Freddie accidentally walked into a rotating propeller and succumbed to his injuries. On the day of Freddie Jackson's funeral, the crew from HMS Daedalus posed for a group photograph. Upon reviewing the photo, they noticed a startling figure in the top row, Freddie Jackson himself. According to legend, Jackson had not yet realized he was dead and showed up for the photo out of habit. Adding to the eerie tale, one source claims that the photo was taken at the very site where Jackson met his untimely death. Well, there he was, and no mistake, although a little fainter than the rest. Indeed, he looked as though he was not altogether there, not really with the group, for he alone was capless, smiling. All the rest were serious and set and wearing service caps. Most had not long returned from church parade and marching in a military funeral. For Freddie Jackson had, upon that very spot, the squadron tarmac, 3 days before, walked heedlessly into the whirling propeller of an aeroplane. He had been killed stone dead instantly. He, evidently, was still quite unaware of it. Colonel Remy van Lierde was a distinguished Belgian pilot who served valiantly during World War II. He flew with both the Belgian and British Air Forces, successfully shooting down 6 enemy aircraft and 44 V-1 flying bombs, eventually achieving the rank of squadron leader in the RAF. By 1953, as lieutenant colonel, van Lierde had risen to the esteemed position of Deputy Chief of Staff to the Minister of Defense. In 1958, he etched his name in the annals of aviation history as one of the first Belgians to break the sound barrier while test flying a Hawker Hunter at a renowned aerodrome in England. He is celebrated as a hero of World War II and a flying ace. In 1959, now a full colonel, van Lierde commanded the air base at Kamina in the African Congo. During his tenure in the Katanga region of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, he experienced a remarkable encounter. While returning from a mission by helicopter, van Lierde spotted a giant Congo snake emerging from a hole in the dense forest below. He described the snake as being close to 25 feet in length, making it one of the largest snakes ever reported. Upon making the incredible discovery, Colonel Remy van Lierde turned his helicopter around and made several passes over the snake at a lower altitude, allowing another person on board to photograph the enormous creature. Van Lierde recounted that as he flew lower for a closer inspection, the snake rose up approximately 10 feet, giving the impression it would have attacked the helicopter if it had been within striking range. "I feel and I'm convinced if I had been in its range it would have struck at me," Colonel van Lierde confessed. According to his report, the snake's aggressive posture and impressive height as it reared up were clear signs of its potential threat. Despite the danger, van Lierde managed to get a good view of the snake's coloring, leading many to believe it could have been an anaconda. This extraordinary encounter added yet another astonishing chapter to the legendary career of Colonel Remy van Lierde. He later described the giant snake as having a dark shade of green and brown with a white-colored belly. Van Lierde claimed the snake's head was 3 feet wide, with jaws of a triangular shape. The colonel is considered a reliable eyewitness, and his testimony is highly convincing. His detailed depiction aligns closely with descriptions familiar to snake experts. Multiple experts and zoologists analyzed several of his photographs of the giant Congo snake and verified their authenticity. By conducting comparison analysis with the ground features around the snake, they confirmed the impressive size of the serpent. This extraordinary sighting by Colonel Remy van Lierde continues to intrigue and fascinate the scientific community. A disconcerting Polaroid of a seemingly handcuffed boy was discovered among the possessions of Elmer Wayne Henley, an accomplice of the notorious serial killer Dean Corll. Known as the Candyman, Corll tortured and murdered at least 28 young males between 1970 and 1973. The photo has become a focal point of investigation as authorities seek to determine if the child pictured could be Corll's elusive 29th victim. Filmmaker Josh Vargas, while researching the Candyman case for a movie, made the chilling discovery. He found the photograph among materials that Henley's mother had boxed up after her son's confession and had left untouched for 40 years. This haunting image has revived interest and speculation in the already infamous case of Dean Corll and his heinous crimes. According to Josh Vargas, while rummaging through those pictures, this Polaroid falls out. I take a look at it and, right off the bat, having studied the case and the crime scene photos and everything, I see Dean's toolbox, and I see his implements in that toolbox, and I see this kid right here with handcuffs on his arms. Vargas, determined to uncover the truth, took the photo to the police and then to Elmer Wayne Henley, who is serving a life sentence. Henley examined the photograph but claimed he didn't remember that specific child. However, he did reveal that other victims are still out there, yet to be identified. This haunting discovery adds another layer of intrigue and mystery to the horrific legacy of Dean Corll, suggesting there may be more victims who have yet to be brought to light. Throughout criminal history, there exists a chilling subset of cases that continue to confound law enforcement and captivate the public imagination: unsolved serial killers. These mysterious figures have left a trail of terror in their wake, their identities hidden, their motives elusive. Join us on a journey into the heart of darkness, where the shadows of the past conceal the secrets of some of the most notorious and elusive predators we've ever come across. Let's try unlocking the mysteries of these cold cases and dive deep into the psyche of the killers, exploring the twisted motivations behind their heinous acts. Be warned, the journey into the world of unsolved serial killers is not for the faint of heart. As we peel back the layers of deception and depravity, we confront the unsettling reality that some secrets may never be brought to light. Prepare yourself for a gripping exploration of the darkest corners of humanity, where truth and justice hangs in the balance. Welcome to Fireside Unsolved, Episode 80, 3 Unsolved Serial Killers. In the shadowy corners of 1970s San Francisco, a sinister figure lurked, a killer known only as the Doodler. Between January 1974 and September 1975, this unidentified predator is believed to have brutally ended the lives of 6 to 16 men and assaulted 3 others. His eerie moniker, the Doodler, stems from his chilling ritual, sketching his victims before plunging a knife into their bodies. The Doodler prowled the vibrant gay nightclubs, bars, and restaurants, preying on unsuspecting men and leaving a trail of terror in his wake. Survivors of the Doodler described the suspect as a black man between 19 and 25 years old, standing about 6 feet tall with a slender build. His victims, all white males, were found with similar stab wounds to the front and back of their bodies, suggesting a methodical and brutal attack. The Doodler's reign of terror left a haunting mark on the city, with the precise nature of the attacks and the calculated selection of victims painting a chilling portrait of a dangerous predator. Police did question a young man as a suspect in these murders, but their investigation hit a wall. Although the suspect cooperated with police during his interview, he never admitted to the murders or attacks. The 3 surviving victims, fearing the repercussions of being outed in the conservative climate of the time, refused to testify against him in court. At the time, activist Harvey Milk publicly expressed empathy for the victims who refused to speak with police. He stated, "I understand their position. I respect the pressure society has put on them." Milk elaborated that the 3 men likely feared damaging relationships with family and in the workforce, noting his belief that 20% to 25% of the 85,000 gay men in San Francisco were closeted about their sexualities. This reluctance to come forward left the police unable to proceed with criminal charges, allowing the Doodler to remain a specter of terror in San Francisco's dark history. In February 2019, authorities offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to the killer's arrest, and released an updated sketch showing what he might look like 4 decades later. In addition to the reward, recent advances in DNA technology have prompted police to re-examine the evidence, using the same technique that identified the suspect in the Golden State Killer case. To this day, the case remains open and ongoing within the San Francisco Police Department, and the Doodler remains unnamed and unapprehended, with little public information available about these brutal crimes. In the shadows of Denver's streets, a chilling story unfolds, the story of the Denver prostitute killer. This unidentified serial killer haunted the city and its suburbs for 2 decades, leaving a trail of terror in his wake with the brutal murders of at least 17 women and girls between 1975 and 1995. As investigators delved deeper, they unearthed a bone-chilling revelation, the realization that these seemingly isolated crimes were the work of one man. The killer's sinister pattern emerged, targeting young girls and women between the ages of 15 and 25 years old. Many vanished from the streets of Denver as hitchhikers, patrons of local bars and restaurants, or prostitutes, only to be discovered lifeless in remote areas. Their fates were sealed with brutal beatings, strangulation, and the indignity of being posed in humiliating positions. The grim roll call of victims goes on and on, each name a stark reminder of the ruthless reign of terror inflicted by the Denver prostitute killer. 17-year-old Kimberly Jean Graben, 15-year-old Stephanie Ann Bauman, 18-year-old Donna Wayne, to only name a few of the victims. In each tragic tale, the same chilling modus operandi emerged, a cruel signature of death woven into the fabric of Denver, Colorado. As the body count rose, so did the collective fear, gripping communities in a vice of terror as they grappled with the realization that a shadowy predator walked among them, leaving behind nothing but devastation and unanswered questions. The elusive nature of the Denver prostitute killer only added to the mystery surrounding these heinous crimes. Despite the best efforts of law enforcement, the killer's identity remained unknown. With many victims discovered in varying states of decomposition, crucial forensic evidence such as fingerprints or biological traces proved fruitless, frustrating investigators' efforts to unmask the perpetrator. A glimmer of hope emerged when a local resident, well acquainted with the neighborhood and fitting the profile of the killer, was identified as a suspect. However, without concrete evidence, he slipped through the cracks of justice, leaving the community haunted by the specter of uncertainty. In a few rare instances, witnesses came forward, offering glimpses of the killer, a middle-aged white male lurking in the shadows of Denver's streets. But, even with these tantalizing clues, the identity of the Denver prostitute killer remained a mystery, a riddle yet to be solved in the halls of true crime history. In a breakthrough moment in 2005, the veil of anonymity surrounding the Denver prostitute killer seemed to lift when 52-year-old Billy Edwin Reed was apprehended and charged with the 1989 murders of 2 women, Lanell Williams and Lisa Kelly. Reed's conviction and subsequent life sentence brought a sense of closure to those seeking justice for the remaining victims. However, lingering suspicions remain, as despite intensive investigations, no incriminating evidence linking Reed to the other murders has been unearthed, leaving the door open to the possibility of other perpetrators. One such suspect to emerge from the shadows is Vincent Groves, a figure whose dark legacy extends beyond the grave. Linked to a string of murders in Denver, Groves's name looms large in true crime history, with the Denver Police Department suggesting he may have been responsible for over 20 killings of young girls and women during the same period when the prostitute killer held the city in fear. Yet the truth is still out of reach, leaving investigators grappling with the unsettling uncertainty that continues to blanket these unsolved mysteries. In the vast expanse of the American heartland, where amber waves of grain stretch to meet the endless horizon, a sinister specter known as the I-70 Strangler emerged, casting a shadow over the tranquil Midwestern landscape. Between the years 1980 and 1991, this predator prowled the highways and byways of Interstate 70, leaving a trail of unspeakable horror and despair. The I-70 Strangler's reign of terror claimed the lives of at least 12 unsuspecting victims, their bodies cruelly discarded in desolate areas along the interstate. Each life snuffed out by the cold grip of strangulation, leaving behind a grim testament to the killer's unrelenting brutality and disregard for human life. The killer's hunting grounds were the gay bars and establishments of a 4-block radius in Indianapolis, where he preyed upon the vulnerable and the innocent. Young boys and adolescents, lured by the promise of companionship and camaraderie, fell victim to his deadly charms, only to meet a tragic end at his hands. As the bodies of the I-70 Strangler's victims were discovered, naked or partially clothed, amidst the serene beauty of rivers, streams, and ditches in the rural countryside, the community recoiled in horror. Yet, despite the best efforts of law enforcement, the killer remained one step ahead, his identity mired in mystery and speculation. In the maze of investigations into the I-70 Strangler's reign of terror, The Indianapolis police mobilized a dedicated task force in 1982, comprising 8 officers determined to bring an end to the spate of gruesome killings that had cast a pall over the city. Among the earliest individuals to capture the attention of authorities was 47-year-old Duncan Patterson, a Florida native whose presence in Indianapolis became a focal point of scrutiny in the fall of 1982. Patterson's arrest on charges of statutory assault against young boys sent shockwaves through the community, igniting a firestorm of speculation and suspicion surrounding his potential involvement in the string of brutal murders that had gripped the city in fear. Amidst the chaos of his arrest, a crucial piece of evidence surfaced. A friend of Delvoyd Baker, one of the victims, came forward to tell authorities he witnessed Baker entering Patterson's van, setting off alarm bells among investigators. In a stunning turn of events, Patterson admitted to the encounter, acknowledging that he had engaged in a transaction with Baker, exchanging $20 for time in a hotel room. However, he adamantly denied any role in Baker's tragic death, asserting that he had dropped the young boy off near the Indianapolis Central Library after their encounter, where he claimed to have witnessed Baker enter another vehicle. Remarkably, Patterson's account found support from a corroborating witness, who claimed to have observed Baker conversing with a man he appeared to know before departing in the older man's car, a narrative that seemed to align with Patterson's version of events. To further assess his credibility, Patterson willingly submitted to a polygraph test, emerging triumphant as he successfully passed the examination. Despite the cloud of suspicion that initially surrounded him, Patterson's unwavering denial of involvement, coupled with the corroborating testimony of witnesses and his successful polygraph results, led investigators to officially exclude him as a suspect in the I-70 Strangler case. However, his conviction on charges of child assault served as a sobering reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of the investigation, highlighting the complexities and uncertainties inherent in the pursuit of justice amidst the shadows of unspeakable evil. With the FBI lending their expertise to the investigation in 1983, the hunt for the I-70 Strangler took on new dimensions. As they delved deeper into the investigation of the killer's crimes, 4 more names were added to the list of potential victims: 25-year-old Gary Davis, 27-year-old Dennis Bratz, 21-year-old John Roach, and 22-year-old Daniel McNeve. Like those who had come before them, these young men shared a common thread. They were all homosexual, frequented the city's gay bars, and met their untimely ends in Indianapolis between August 1981 and May 1983. Profilers meticulously analyzed the evidence, uncovering patterns and nuances in the killer's behavior, concluding that the perpetrator exhibited volatile tendencies. However, as the investigation progressed, a startling revelation emerged: the presence of at least 2 distinct perpetrators operating independently of one another. In light of this revelation, Davis, Bratz, Roach, and McNeve were removed from the list of potential victims, their deaths attributed to other, separate killers. The FBI's profiling of their killer paints a portrait of a complex and deeply troubled individual. According to their analysis, this perpetrator was a white man aged between 20 and 30, employed in a job requiring low-skilled labor. Despite outward displays of masculinity and perhaps even overt homophobia, he harbored a secret, latent homosexual desires that he concealed beneath a facade of shame and self-loathing. These conflicting emotions manifested in acts of violence, as he sought to suppress his own identity through the brutal murders of his victims. An affinity for military paraphernalia and a commitment to a healthy lifestyle added further details to this persona. In stark contrast, the killer responsible for the other victims was described as a white man around 45 years old, likely overweight, and holding a high-paying job with significant community respect. Behind the veneer of success and respectability, however, lurked a dark secret, a penchant for adolescent boys and young men that he concealed from his marriage and community. The weight of shame and guilt stemming from his forbidden desires, coupled with the fear of exposure and societal condemnation, fueled a deep-seated hatred that found expression in his heinous crimes. This portrayal offers a harrowing glimpse into the twisted motivations driving the I-70 Strangler's deadly rampage, revealing the depths of depravity that can lie hidden beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. On the list of the suspects for I-70 Strangler, one name emerged with chilling resonance: Larry Eyler, a convicted serial killer whose reign of terror spanned the borders of Indiana and Illinois. Eyler's gruesome legacy included the murder of 21 adolescent boys and young men, a harrowing testament to the depths of human depravity. At the time of the I-70 Strangler's reign of terror, Eiler languished on death row, awaiting execution for the heinous murder of 16-year-old Daniel Bridges. While Eiler's method of killing, primarily with a knife, and the time frame of his crimes differed from those attributed to the I-70 Strangler, disturbing parallels emerged between their respective victims. Both killers targeted homosexual men, dumping their lifeless bodies across the heartland. The proximity of several victims to Richmond, Indiana, where Eiler's mother resided, fueled speculation of a potential link between the two killers. In a stunning turn of events, Eiler, in collaboration with his lawyer Kathleen Zellner, offered authorities a chilling proposition. In exchange for commuting his sentence, he would provide information leading to the resolution of over 20 murders, purportedly committed with the assistance of his lover, Robert Little. As negotiations unfolded, Eiler's confession shed new light on the dark corridors of his depraved mind, implicating him in the murder of 23-year-old Stephen Agan, among others. Despite Eiler's cooperation and damning testimony against Little, the jury ultimately acquitted Little of all charges, leaving the question of his involvement uncertain. Following Eiler's death in 1994, his lawyer stunned the public with the revelation of a posthumous confession, wherein Eiler admitted to the murder of 21 young men between 1982 and 1984, 4 of which were committed with Little's knowledge or assistance. However, none of Eiler's confessed victims bore resemblance to those attributed to the I-70 Strangler, leaving the haunting specter of the killer's true identity to linger. Despite the closure brought by Eiler's confession, lingering questions remain regarding his potential involvement in other unsolved murders across Indiana, Kentucky, and Wisconsin. In February 1998, a chilling revelation thrust the name Herb Baumeister into the spotlight of suspicion. An Indianapolis resident came forward with a shocking claim. Prior to his suicide in 1996, Baumeister had already garnered notoriety as the prime suspect in a string of grisly murders that had plagued Indianapolis between 1993 and 1995. The remains of at least 7 men, their lives cruelly extinguished, were unearthed on Baumeister's property, a macabre graveyard hidden in plain sight. Investigators wasted no time in naming him as the prime suspect in the I-70 Strangler case. According to their narrative, Baumeister had ceased dumping his victims' bodies along the interstate in 1991, instead opting to utilize his newly acquired Fox Hollow farm as a clandestine burial ground for his heinous deeds. However, despite the mounting suspicion and circumstantial evidence, no tangible link has been established between Baumeister and the victims of the I-70 Strangler. The absence of physical evidence has fueled skepticism and debate, with some asserting Baumeister's innocence. In the swirling winds of uncertainty and suspicion, the case of the I-70 Strangler remains unsolved, blanketed in darkness, its secrets guarded by the passage of time. With each passing day, the specter of the cold cases loom larger, a haunting reminder of the soul's still wanting closure, and the depths of human depravity in the world of criminal investigations. As our journey into the world of unsolved serial killers comes to a close, we are left with more questions than answers. The stories we've explored serve as a stark reminder of the enduring impact of these heinous crimes on the lives of victims, their families, and the communities they terrorized. While the shadows may obscure the truth for now, our commitment to seeking justice remains unwavering. Through continued investigation, advocacy, and awareness, we hold on to hope that one day, the answers we seek will come to light. Until then, we honor the memories of those lost and vow to never forget the quest for truth in the face of darkness. For in the pursuit of justice, there is hope for closure and healing. Join us again next time as we continue to unravel the mysteries of the unknown. Fireside. Nestled along I-70 just southwest of Georgetown and an hour west of Denver lies the small town of Silver Plume, Colorado. Once a bustling mining hub, by 1987 it was a quiet community. Tourists would occasionally pass through, but for the most part, life in Silver Plume moved at a slower pace. That year, a local fixture named Tom Young owned the only bookstore in town. He'd been there for about a year, chatting with customers and becoming a familiar face. But on September 7th, 1987, Tom closed up shop and left town. He told everyone he was off on a European adventure, a trip he'd been planning for ages. But 3 weeks went by, and something wasn't right. Tom Young and his faithful dog Gus had vanished without a trace. Weeks turned into months, and with no sign of Tom, the mystery began to gnaw at the close-knit community of Silver Plume. A little less than a year later, in June 1988, 48-year-old Chicago sports reporter Keith Reinhard made the decision to take a 3-month leave of absence from work so that he could spend time in the secluded mountain town of Silver Plume, Colorado. Silver Plume, with its picturesque setting and slower pace of life, seemed like the perfect place for Keith to find inspiration and challenge himself in new ways. Also, his old friend Ted Parker ran a quaint cafe in the heart of the town. Keith Reinhard and Ted Parker had a deep-rooted friendship, having grown up across the street from each other and known each other for nearly 40 years. Their bond was akin to that of brothers, and the idea of reconnecting with Ted and immersing himself in the small-town atmosphere was appealing to him. According to Ted, as Keith approached his 50th birthday, he was filled with a mix of apprehension and excitement. Keith saw this upcoming milestone as a turning point, and he wanted to make the most of his final years in his 40s. Keith chose Silver Plume for other reasons as well. For Keith, this was a deliberate effort to live out his dreams. He wanted to conquer his fear of heights by mountain climbing, getting in shape, and also wanted to start writing a novel. These were not merely personal goals. They were part of his desire to embrace life fully before age began to limit his physical abilities. His son Sven mentioned that Keith felt a sense of urgency as he anticipated getting older. He wanted to savor the last of his younger years without regrets, ensuring he accomplished certain things before it was too late. In addition to his personal goals, Keith had another plan. He decided to try his hand at running an antique store, catering to the influx of summer tourists. This venture was more than just a business experiment. It was a test to see if a simpler life in Silver Plume could be a permanent reality for him and his wife, Carolyn. If the store proved successful, Keith dreamed of leaving Chicago and the hectic world of sports reporting behind in order to start a new chapter in this serene mountain town. Keith Reinhard's antique store was strategically located on Main Street, right across from Ted's Cafe. It didn't take long for Keith to discover that his store's building had previously housed Tom Young's bookstore, a place deemed slightly creepy by residents of Silver Plume, due to Tom's unexplained disappearance in 1987. Tom's unexplained disappearance quickly captivated Keith, fueling an obsession that led him to talk to everyone in Silver Plume who had known Tom. Determined to uncover the truth, Keith decided to base his novel on Tom's mysterious story. As he began writing, Keith created a character named Guy Gypsum, a blend of himself and what he learned about Tom Young. The lines between reality and fiction started to blur for Keith, making it difficult for him to distinguish between his own life and the character he was writing about. His daughter, Tiffany, noticed how deeply engrossed her dad was in Tom's disappearance, mentioning it constantly, even leading her to speculate that Keith might even want to experience the sensation of disappearing firsthand to authentically convey it in his writing. On July 31st, 1988, nearly a year after Tom's mysterious disappearance, 2 hunters made a grim discovery on Republican Mountain, just 1.5 miles outside of Silver Plume. They found the remains of Tom and his dog, Gus, each having died from a bullet wound to the head. A revolver was also found at the scene. The subsequent police investigation revealed that Tom had purchased a gun approximately 4 days before he vanished from Silver Plume. Both the coroner's office and the Clear Creek County Sheriff's Department later ruled the case a suicide, and it was officially closed. The tragic end of Tom's life, now confirmed, seemed to only deepen Keith's obsession. As he continued to work on his novel, the lines between his life and the life of his character, Guy Gypsum, blurred even further. Keith's fixation on Tom's fate seemed to consume him. 1 week later, on August 7, 1988, Keith Reinhard closed his antique store around 2:30 p.m. Throughout the afternoon, he strolled through Silver Plume, mentioning to several residents his plan to climb nearby Pendleton Mountain. Most locals dismissed his intentions, knowing his fear of heights and aversion to climbing alone. At 4 p.m., Keith stopped by Ted's Cafe and declared his determination to reach the mountain's summit. He added ominously that if he didn't return, Ted should call on the rescue. After saying his goodbyes, Keith left. Despite his serious tone, Ted, like the others, didn't believe Keith was truly going to attempt the climb. Keith's parting words, however, took on a haunting significance as the remainder of the day unfolded, setting the stage for yet another disappearance that would soon envelop the town of Silver Plume. At 4:30 p.m., Keith was seen heading towards Pendleton Mountain, far too late in the day to begin a strenuous hike that typically took 6 hours. He wore only a flannel shirt and carried no supplies, not even a jacket. That night, he didn't return. The following day, a massive search operation was launched. Helicopters scoured Pendleton Mountain from above, while over 125 men and a dozen trained dogs combed the rugged terrain below. The searchers faced a daunting task, likening it to finding a needle in a haystack, with the mountain's 3,000 vertical feet of 60-degree slopes providing an almost insurmountable challenge. The difficulty was compounded by Keith's lack of proper gear. He had ventured into the mountains wearing only blue jeans, a flannel shirt, and tennis shoes, without a backpack or any equipment or supplies that might offer clues. For 7 days, the search teams battled the harsh conditions, but Keith's disappearance remained a mystery. The Colorado Alpine Rescue Teams had a perfect record in the 30 years they had been in service. They had found every single person they searched for. Yet, despite their exhaustive efforts, they could find no trace of Keith Reinhard. His disappearance baffled the seasoned rescuers and left the small town of Silver Plume on edge, waiting for news of Keith to be found. Later, friends searching through Keith's belongings, trying to find a clue of where he could be, discovered a newspaper next to his computer. The headline read, "Tom Young's Body Found." On the computer screen were the unfinished words of his novel. Guy Gypsum changed into some hiking boots and donned a heavy flannel shirt. He understood Tom now and his motivation. Guy closed the door, then walked off towards the lush, shadowless Colorado forest above. These haunting words blurred the line between Keith's fiction and reality, reflecting his deep obsession with Tom's story. Keith's final act seemed to mirror the fate of the very character he was writing about, leaving behind a chilling echo in the quiet town of Silver Plume. The parallels between Keith's unfinished novel and his real-life actions raised unsettling questions. Could these words imply that Keith, like Tom, had decided to take his own life? Carolyn, Keith's wife, strongly rejected this notion. She described Keith as an optimistic and upbeat person, always advocating for a positive mental attitude. With his type of personality, she felt certain that he would not have considered suicide. Another theory suggested that neither Keith nor Tom committed suicide, but were instead victims of foul play. There were several factors that supported this suspicion. Firstly, ballistics tests could never conclusively prove that the bullet which killed Tom came from his own gun. Secondly, both men had rented the same space to run their shops. This coincidence led some to speculate that they might have come across information that someone wanted to keep hidden. Keith's daughter, Tiffany, believed foul play was involved and that her father had stumbled upon something dangerous. Sven, Keith's son, held a more pragmatic view, expressing that the truth might remain hidden until Keith or his body is found. One last theory from authorities speculated that Keith Reinhard might have planned his own disappearance. Carolyn, however, did not support this idea either. She found it unlikely that Keith would have set off at 4 p.m. for a long-distance hike with such a distant destination in mind. Given the time of day, she believed he would have gone for a shorter walk up the mountain, only as far as he felt comfortable, before turning back. She also found it peculiar that Keith did not take either of his cameras, especially since he was in the habit of carrying one to capture the scenic beauty around Silver Plume. The police considered several factors that might indicate a planned disappearance. They noted that Keith was possibly experiencing a midlife crisis and was frustrated with the lack of success thus far from his antique store in Silver Plume. Additionally, he had mentioned to numerous people that he was going for a hike, a detail that puzzled investigators. They questioned why he would emphasize this to so many people and why he would attempt such a climb alone, given his fear of heights. The police also drew a parallel with Tom's disappearance, where Tom had left a false trail. They wondered if Keith might have employed a similar tactic. The unresolved elements of Keith's behavior, the timing of his departure, his unusual lack of photographic equipment, and the improbable hike given his fears, added to the mystery and left open the question of whether his disappearance was indeed a deliberate act. Each theory, whether suicide, foul play, or a planned disappearance, added layers of complexity to the case. Carolyn firmly believes that Keith would never simply walk away from his life. He cherished his relationships and enjoyed staying connected with the people he loved. She cannot imagine him leaving everyone behind without a word. However, she holds on to a glimmer of hope that if he is still alive, they might resolve whatever reasons led to his disappearance. Realistically, though, she has braced herself for the possibility that Keith may no longer be alive. An intriguing footnote to this case is Keith's expressed desire to visit West Virginia, mentioned to several friends shortly before he vanished. Additionally, on the night before his disappearance, Keith attended a party where he spent considerable time talking to a woman named either Greta or Gretchen from Denver. The police believe she might have vital information regarding his disappearance, but they have not been able to locate her. Despite extensive investigations, authorities have been unable to determine what truly happened to Keith. The similarities and timing of Keith's and Tom's cases continue to provoke speculation. Many wonder if Tom's death and Keith's disappearance are connected, leaving an air of mystery that still lingers over Silver Plume. As the mystery of Tom Young and Keith Reinhard's disappearance persists, the small town of Silver Plume remains gripped by uncertainty, almost 40 years after the case began. Despite exhaustive search efforts and compelling leads, including his expressed interest in visiting West Virginia, concrete answers have remained out of reach. Yet, with each passing day, the family of Keith and the community of Silver Plume grapples with the sobering realization that Keith's fate may never be fully understood, leaving open-ended questions that echo through the quiet mountain valleys, leaving Silver Plume forever touched by the unsolved disappearance of Keith Reinhard. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and we just want to say thank you to all of our new viewers and subscribers. Welcome to our cozy community, and we'll see you next time. Fireside.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fireside Unsolved. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, take it easy and be easy, you filthy bastards.